Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another episode of the Scoop Rewind podcast brought to you by PPG. Checking in with members of the 2016 Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins and alongside Crechiolo of Pens Inside Scoop. Happy to welcome in from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Eric Fehr. Fairzy, what's up? Great to see you again.
How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Honestly, Fairzy, we started this podcast after you left, and I'm so excited we have a chance to get you on now because you're one of those like bucket list guests with your great personality. So we're excited to have you.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited for all the questions.
Yeah, they're coming hot and heavy, starting right away. You got a great setup there, as we can see in the background. You got the Stanley Cup Prince of Wales trophy, of course, from that 2016 Penguins run. We'll get to the final against San Jose here in a second, but I want to go back a little bit in the postseason to the second round when you faced off against another one of those jerseys that you have behind you, one of your former teams, the Washington Capitals. When that series comes to mind, when you think about that matchup against Washington and you look back now, a few years later here, how unbelievable of a series was that to play in? How much of a classic was it? Just two Goliaths seemingly going head-to-head there in round number two.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable series. And for me, obviously, it kind of felt like my Stanley Cup, having just left Washington, switching sides to the enemy. You definitely don't want to lose that one. So, there's a little bit of extra motivation in that series. And like you said, that series kind of had everything. It was physical. It was intense. It was very evenly matched. And obviously very happy we came out on top.
Well, what was that like for you, Fairzy, just from a personal standpoint? Like, were the guys on the other side giving you extra chirps and were you giving it back? Were you trying to ignore them? Like, just what was that dynamic like with your old teammates?
We didn't really say anything about it, but we weren't texting each other and we weren't talking to each other. And I remember game one, Wilson ran me over really hard from behind. And then I knew I was in a series, at that point. There was definitely no friends. And it was right through to game six. We were going at each other toe to toe.
It was a great series too, because I'm sure you remember as we kind of jog the memory here a little bit, but game one goes to Washington and that we'll say it was a goal, but I still don't think there's a conclusive replay to TJ Oshie's wraparound into the back of the net. They won in overtime. And this came after you guys, I don't want to say cruised by, but you had your way pretty relatively easily with the New York Rangers in round number one. So you had to, in a way, get game two and get this series evened up going back to Pittsburgh. And that's when you made your first mark on the score sheet, at least in the series, with that goal, that game winner late in regulation.
Yeah, we definitely didn't want to go back home down 2-0. And I remember obviously thinking we had a good shot in game one. And whether it was a goal or not, it happened. And, game two, it was great. It was an even match. And, going into the third period there, to be able to score that goal to put the team ahead, it was an unbelievable feeling, not only to score against your old team, but, to give ourselves a chance to even the series going home. I don't know what would have happened if we would have been down 2-0.
What do you remember from that play, Fairzy? Were you on a line with Gino that game, or was it just like the result of a change? I can't really remember.
I was playing with Gino and I think Cooney that game. And I remember we had a couple of good chances earlier in the game. Cooney had a nice one in the slot. And I think it was actually just before this goal. And then somehow Gino got it on the half wall and I just went to the net and put my stick on the ice. And he just kind of bounced it off my stick and in. So it was I remember playing with him as one of the only games I played with Gino. Someone must have been injured or something. But, it was a lot of fun. And, luckily I was able to get a goal.
Do you remember getting mauled by him right after? Because Josh talked with a few of the other guys from the 16 team, and Brian Russ said, it feels like after every goal he scores that he just immediately gets mauled by Gino right after. Is that what happened on this one with you?
I don't remember in particular what happened on this one, but I remember kind of being like shocked because the puck hit my stick so fast, like I couldn't even really see it go in because I was looking at the puck, trying to redirect it, and I wasn't 100% sure it even went in. But obviously, the other guys saw it.
Yeah, it was a good tip when Holtby gives you that look back over his shoulder, like where the heck did that come from? But that was a big one.
Yeah, that one worked out really well. I was excited to get it, and winning that game for us was really important.
I got to say this, and I'm sure Michelle remembers this. This is a kind of an aside to that. So that game, we weren't all traveling. The players, obviously, you guys were all traveling on the team plane and going back and forth. But the extension of the media that was there to cover that series, some of us were driving back and forth. Michelle and I were a part of that. I was actually running in the Pittsburgh half marathon the next morning back in Pittsburgh. So when you scored that goal, I was thanking every single hockey god on the planet because we weren't going to be there until who knew at what time in the morning. But also, we could drive right back through the night and then run the next morning. So thank you for that goal. I've never had a chance to actually thank you for scoring, not keeping us there 2 in the morning.
My pleasure. Definitely my pleasure.
Yeah, Fairzy, Josh might have been happier than you when that goal went in.
I doubt that one.
Yeah, that's true. He was probably pretty happy. You guys were able to hold serve on home ice, though, in a big way. You get 3 and 4, and obviously Chris Letang was out for 4, and you were able to take control of the series. And I think you really did a lot to the damage of Washington's confidence in the process there in those 2 games.
Well, we were a good team at home, and that was important for us, obviously, to win those games. I do remember I was actually injured for one of those games. I think it was game 3 that I missed, 3 or 4. And then obviously going back game 5 and game 6, I was back in the lineup. So, it was nice for us to win our home games and give ourselves a chance to close it out.
Do you remember seeing any Fehr Capitals jerseys, Eric?
I have no idea. To be honest, though, pretty much the entire playoffs was a blur. You're trying just to focus on one game. You're trying to avoid everything that's a distraction on the outside. So, you were telling me some stories earlier, and it kind of jogged my memory. But to be honest, most of it was a blur.
Okay, I know you guys have talked about that a lot, but maybe now that it's few years removed, we can get to that in more detail. How do you go about blocking all that noise out? Because, I know Josh probably feels the same way. Like us watching, I mean, my adrenaline is just, on a complete high, and I'm nervous and I'm anxious. How are you guys able to just, stay even keeled through all that pressure?
I wouldn't say we stay even keeled, but we definitely try our best. And I think, that was part of our team having a lot of veteran experience and veteran leadership. I think there's enough guys on the team that were composed and they were kind of able to bring everybody else in. I know I relied on Cully a lot. He was my stallmate often. I would talk to him about different things, like how he did it in the past with Carolina, and he kind of helped me out. And I think everybody just kind of latched on to someone and just kind of worked with them in small groups, just trying to make sure we stayed focused.
That's really interesting you say that too, because I feel like, the big storylines going in where, Sid, Gino, Tanger, these guys from 09 had, been crushed by the weight of expectations and pressure. Then there were the young kids coming in who had no expectations, no pressure. But I always wonder, for the guys, in between, you were a veteran guy, but you weren't in the same situation as Sid and Gino. So it's cool to hear you give your perspective, what it was like for you, not necessarily coming from the outside, but still having been in the league for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the playoffs pretty much every year of my career, but, as it's pretty well documented, we were first round or second round exits. So, once you get past that second round, you kind of get extra excited and you think you did it, but you don't realize that there's 2 more rounds to go. So, at that point, it's just trying to take it day by day and not get ahead of yourself. And I did not let myself visualize or picture myself holding the cup one bit until we ended up winning, because I didn't want to crush myself if it didn't happen. So, you're just literally focusing on the next game.
When you look at that next series against Tampa Bay in the Eastern Conference Final, I'm not going to go totally into detail with it, but obviously we all know how it shook out. You guys won in 7 games, but Tampa was a lot like you guys from what I remember that year in 2016. They had a lot of speed, a lot of skill. They were quick in transition, which you guys really emphasized a lot of. How much do you think just playing a team like that and having that style of play be the way to get past a team at that stage of the season helped you guys when you went into the final against San Jose, who was a really good team, a really deep team, but didn't necessarily play? I wouldn't say speed would be the first word that comes to mind when you think about the way the Sharks played.
Yeah, I think playing against Washington was a really heavy game. It was probably not as fast, but it was definitely more physical. And I think it took us a little bit of time in the Tampa Bay series to kind of get caught up to the speed that Tampa was playing with. And you almost have to shift the way you're playing, you change your strategy a little bit. And I think we did that by the end. And, when we won game 6 and 7, we were kind of playing at that faster speed. And I think when we went on to play San Jose, we kept that speed. And, I don't remember exactly who they're playing in the third round. Was it maybe St. Louis?
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe their series wasn't as fast, and we kind of hit the ground running in game 1 and 2, playing at that quick pace.
In facing San Jose, Michelle mentioned it a little bit earlier, just kind of the guys you played with. We know Matt Cullen, Tom Kuhnackel, had some moments with Evgeny Malkin, some time with Chris Kunitz. Was watching some video before we talked with you today when you scored the big goal in game 4 that kind of sealed that game for you guys and gave you a 3-1 series lead. You get a pass from Carl Hagelin. You're out there with him and Nick Bonino. So you were kind of the Swiss Army knife, but you seem to perform regardless of where you were in the lineup. And I think that goes for a lot of guys that played on that team in 2016.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys that were real versatile, and I think that just goes to Coach Sullivan's ideas that you can put players all over the place and fill them in different spots. And for me, I remember when I was with Hagelin and Bonino, I was playing a little bit more of a defensive role. I believe it was late in the game. Sometimes Phil gets a shift or two off when you play a little extra defense. I'm not sure why. So I was able to jump out with those guys and really take advantage of it.
What is it like, Fehr, to score a goal in the Stanley Cup Final?
That was, I watched it a lot after that. Again, it's just an unbelievable feeling to be able to score that goal. And I remember watching it after and seeing Lemieux was in the press box, and they showed him right after I scored. And it's crazy because Lemieux was my childhood idol. So, to score that goal and to see how pumped Lemieux was, that was really exciting for me.
Wait, I don't think we knew that. He was your guy growing up?
He was my guy. He's the tall guy, scored a ton of goals. That's what I wanted to do. So I grew up watching him, and to be able to score that goal, like I said, have him so excited, have the team on the brink of winning the cup. It was an unbelievable feeling.
Did you get a congratulations from him after the game? I know he's known to go down and shake some hands afterward after victories like that.
Yeah, he came down and just said nice goal after, and that's definitely something to remember.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, I know this wasn't the best moment of the series, but game 5, when you guys came back to Pittsburgh after you won that game, I very clearly remember the thousands of people that were outside PPG Paints Arena that night, seemingly all the way up the street into the highway. What do you remember about driving in, just maybe the energy around the city that day and everything that came with that game?
I remember, I believe it was a Saturday, and I remember I had a lot of family in town and a lot of friends in town, and they really wanted to celebrate. And I was trying to block out all that noise and just play the game. And I feel like we dominated the game and should have won by about 10 goals. And the days between game 5 and game 6 could have been the longest days of my life. It was unbelievable, like flying all the way across the country, waiting that extra day to play. Those were some really long days. Yeah,
you mentioned dominating. I mean, I just rewatched game 1, and we'll be watching game 2 soon. But I think what stands out to me the most after watching it, after these few years, is how unbelievably good Martin Jones was. I mean, did you guys have that same sense, especially in game 5, when it's like, man, what do we got to do to get another one past this guy?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, and this is going back to the Washington days when Halak stole the series from Montreal when we were playing against them. And, Jones just kind of had that same feeling going. And you try not to think about it, but you think, I've seen this before. I've seen a goalie like this when we felt like our team was outplaying San Jose for a goalie to steal a series like that. I've seen it, and you just definitely don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Because, I mean, for us on the outside, to me, there was when Rusty scored in game 6 against Tampa Bay, that was when I knew you guys were going to win. There was no doubt in my mind. And then when the way you guys came out in the first period of game 1 against the Sharks, I mean, again, it reinforced that. I was like, there's no chance the Sharks team's going to win. The only thing that gave me any sliver of doubt was Martin Jones. I feel like he was just that good. Credit to him.
Yeah, I would agree with you there for sure.
I feel like there are little plays within the series that when you look back at things, they kind of jump out. I mean, you obviously having played in it, I'm sure there are certain things that stand out more than others. But just looking back at game 6, I think you guys were up 2-0. And Joel Ward, or maybe it was when it was scoreless, Joel Ward got a semi breakaway and Chris Kunitz came out with the full body Superman extension and was able to knock the puck off his stick just as he was about to snap it from about the slot on Murray. And I don't know, you never know how things are going to play out, but them just having had that game in Game 5, as you mentioned, Martin Jones standing on his head and little things like that sometimes get lost in the shuffle of the goals and the celebration. I mean, they go a long way, do they not?
Yeah, they definitely do. And I don't even know. Was it not 1-1 in that game? Was it?
Might have been 1-1. I think it was.
Because I think we had the lead and they tied it, and then that's when Letang came back and scored. There was a couple minutes in between those, between them tying it and Letang scoring the go-ahead, where, I mean, anything could have happened. It's a tie game. Like, that's when they scored that goal to tie it. You start not panicking, but like, we don't have the lead anymore, and anything can happen, and you kind of have to get too far ahead of yourself. But I thought once again we were dominating, and we had a tie game halfway through the game.
Yeah, what do you remember in terms of what Sully said to you guys in between the second and the third? Because, I mean, you guys, I feel like in the third, what did you hold him to? Like 3 shots the entire period, maybe even 2? Yeah. Like, you totally asserted yourselves. Like, did he say anything to you guys, or was it more you had an understanding already? It was just a matter of going out and executing.
I think we kind of had an understanding. I know his big slogan was just play. He said that kind of throughout the whole playoffs. And basically, if he didn't know what to say or didn't have anything to say, he would say just play. So we would just do that. I think it was kind of his way to just keep us light. We had the skill, we had the speed, we had everything we needed. Just don't overthink it. Just play hockey. And, I think that's what we were doing.
All right. We're going to get to the celebration for Game 6 and everything that came with that in a second. But before we get on for this podcast, we were talking about some off-the-ice things that I think we want to dive into here. So anyone who's seen In the Room, which is such an awesome behind-the-scenes look at your team, and especially that first run back in 2016, has seen some of the video that happens before games. And one thing that we saw that jumped out to us was Eric Fehr reading the lineups, the starting lineups for every game. How'd that come about, and how'd you kind of make it your own?
Well, I know that Sully liked to give everybody a turn at the starting lineup, and throughout the regular season, different guys would get it. Whenever you lost the game, it would move to the next guy. And when I first got it, I read the lineup just pretty quick, and we won the game, so it just kept going. And I was trying to get a little bit creative with it because we got on a little bit of a winning streak. So I was just adding a little bit to the lineup every game we won, and by the end, I was doing full out announcing. It felt like, and come playoff time, whenever we'd hit a slump, the score sheet would come back to me, or the lineup sheet to try to heat things up again, and I was able to do it a lot in the playoffs as well.
Did you do it before this Game 6?
Oh, I honestly can't remember, but it felt like I did it every game because I was trying to be creative. At one point I think I was saying the birthplace of every guy in the lineup, and just going through all kinds of crazy things just to try to get the guys going. And then it got to the point where I was like, Sully, you need to tell me who's starting ahead of time so I can get creative. So I think I was getting a little bit of assistance and, just trying to keep it light in the room and get the guys excited.
That is so important.
Picturing you going up to Sully and being like, Sully, man, come on, work with me here.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a couple numbers circled, and it's tough to see these lineups when it's under pressure, So I was tired of going off the cuff, so I wanted to do a little bit of research.
That's so good.
That's awesome. I'm sure that you kind of touched on it a little bit there, and I'm sure that it's not unique to the Penguins that did something like that. But in those kind of moments, do you kind of feel that your role was so important in just maybe giving that light moment, like the 30 seconds before the team's going to go out on the ice and play for a Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of one of the things that I bring to the room is I like to joke around a lot, and I just like to have fun in the room. And obviously there's a lot of guys in Pittsburgh, and Flower being the main guy that comes to mind. And we sat really close to each other, so we could exchange a few ideas. But that's one thing I like to pride myself on, is making sure that we're just having fun, goofing around before the game starts.
Yeah, so going off that, how did the pregame energy drink routine get started? What's the story behind that?
Not really. I'm not even sure how it started, but I always grabbed a Red Bull before the game, and I would just offer if anybody wanted some premium fuel for the game. It's important important to have premium fuel. So I would go to the cooler and I'd grab it and I'd yell it pretty much every game, and nobody would take me up on my offer. But at some point, Dumoulin and Daley said, yeah, I'll take a premium fuel. So I brought over a couple Red Bulls and we cracked them. And at some point, it turned into, if Daley or Dumoulin got injured, we'd pour a little bit out for him just because he wasn't in the game. And I know that was later carried on after I got traded. They poured one out for me. I don't know if it was every game or some games, whatever it was, but it was nice of them to keep that tradition going.
Well, it's nice of you guys to do it for Dallas, because he went down and I believe it was game 6 of it was in the Tampa series.
I think it was game 4, right?
Game 4.
Yeah, I don't remember when it was, but yeah, we were definitely, I think we were pouring out like almost half a can for Dales at one point. We had to go back to the ice bucket for more, but that was a big loss for us, losing Dales, one of our more consistent guys and a steady veteran back there. So yeah, we definitely poured a few out for him.
What did you make of Michelle kind of touched on this a little bit earlier with some of the guys that were brought on board, as far as the pressure that had been there and the shortcomings that had been there with the core that was in place. But obviously you came on board, Cully was there, but the in-season deals of guys like Dales, Carl Hagelin, and Justin Schultz, who got a big opportunity with Daley being hurt. How much did those guys, when you think about just watching the evolution of the dressing room and the team on the ice from day one at training camp to that final night in San Jose, how much of those guys really changed the dynamic on both fronts?
Well, I think all the guys we kind of brought in are guys that they don't like to horse around too much, but really like to enjoy the game and have fun, and not so much about the X's and O's, just enjoy the game. So I think the room was pretty light. I know at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of pressure on the team, and you could feel the tension. And I think by the end of the season, everybody was just having fun and nobody wanted to go home. And I think that's a big reason why we kept winning.
Yeah, because I feel like Josh and I have somewhat of a sense of just the locker room chemistry from, being around you guys a decent amount. But obviously we're there when the doors open to the media, but we're not there, behind closed doors. And, it's something where you try to explain how Trevor Daley is to fans who don't necessarily know, because he comes off as quiet and shy when he's doing interviews. But I feel like him, Haggy, all these guys did have great personalities, and you guys all just clicked so easily. Am I right?
Yeah, we had a ton of really good personalities on the team, and a lot of us, we didn't have to go out for supper as a team, but a lot of us went together, and we had huge tables in the playoffs. Where I've been on teams where it's kind of groups of 3, groups of 4, but we had to keep making our reservations bigger and bigger. We just had guys that want to hang out with each other, and that's a sign of a good team.
Actually, that reminds me, because I want to say Cully told me this story before, but maybe you can revisit it. What was the story behind the blazers that you had with? I want to say, was it something like a patch with Cully's number on it or something like that?
That was Cully's retirement crew, and we did dinner for Cully all year long. We went to some fancy restaurants, 3-star Michelin restaurants. It was Bonino, Kunitz, Cully, and myself had blazers with his logo on there. We made all kinds of stuff up, and he didn't retire. So we did all this stuff, put in all this work for his retirement, and he played another 2 or 3 years. I think I tweeted something about it after he eventually retired and just said, good thing I got to celebrate this retirement 3 years ago.
Are you guys footing the bill every time?
No, he chipped in, but we definitely gave him a couple freebies in there, so we're gonna have to hit him back up for those.
Yeah, you mentioned how much of an influence was on you, and I remember Marc-Andre Fleury saying he would even go to Cully just asking him oh, the media is asking me about the goaltending situation, what should I say, asking for guidance. What do you remember in terms of things that Cully told you that really stuck with you that you might remember that were helpful during that time?
I just remember talking to him a lot about what our role was. We were kind of defensive specialists, and we didn't get a ton of opportunity to play in the O zone. We started every single face-off in the D zone, and it's kind of frustrating at times because it's a thankless job. You win the draw, you get the puck out, you get off the ice, and people think they're doing nothing when really, it's a pretty important job. So I remember talking to him about that. And then obviously our penalty killing. We were one of the first guys out every time there's a penalty kill, just kind of the different strategies we'd have against the different PP units. Those are things that we discussed a lot.
He obviously was hoping to get back to winning a Stanley Cup, as you mentioned he did with Carolina in 2006. You had never won one before. A lot of guys in that team had never won one before. So let's jump into this Game 6 situation where I'm sure your whole life as a hockey player growing up, you're dreaming about that moment and what it could be like. And I'm just going to bet, Fairzy, that you did not dream that you'd be coming out of the penalty box to celebrate winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that never crossed my mind. Like I was mentioning to you guys earlier, Sid had texted me about 2 weeks ago. He must have been rewatching the game, and he was laughing at me saying, Fairzy, you got to play right till the last whistle. I got a high sticking penalty with 10 seconds left in the game and had to come out of the penalty box. And, that was one of the toughest moments for me because I'm watching the clock count down. And it's going 3, 2, and I see the whole team jump on the ice, and the guy running the gate won't open the gate. And I'm telling him, open the gate, I want to go celebrate. And I have to wait that extra second or two before he opens the gate, and I'm late to the pile, and all I want to do is celebrate, and he wouldn't let me out there.
It had to have sucked at the time, but in hindsight, it's a hilarious story.
I'm really curious how many people have come out of the penalty box to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple, but the list can't be long.
No, it can't be. It really can't be. And like I was saying before we started, there's a great shot. I think the In the Room guys got it of the overhead, and not to rub it in, but the entire team's coming off the bench, and you have the Black Aces, a few of them coming out of the team entrance, which was off in the corner, and then you just come beelining from the opposite side of the rink. It's pretty.
Like you kind of visualize when you win the cup, you're kind of on the bottom of the pile and everyone's jumping on you. And I feel like I was the last guy there. I think the scratches, the guys that were skating with us all season, I think they beat me to the pile, which is crazy because their gate was closer than my gate. It's just, it's just a tough way to finish it, but at least we won. And I'm glad I was able to get in that scrum altogether.
But did you throw your gear the second you got out of the box, or did you wait till you got closer?
I think I maybe hit the blue line and threw my gear, but throwing gear when you're completely by yourself, it loses the effect. You want to be right in the mix.
Yeah.
But it was all worth it in the end. Got to play till the whistle, right?
Yeah, right.
Play to the whistle. Sidney Crosby.
One thing you do have going in your favor, at least, is the video feed. You see the Fehr 16 jersey jump on top of the pile. So you're very visible when you get on that pile, at least. You're not underneath. It looks like when you guys first started piling on Matt Murray that he got clotheslined and was just getting absolutely mauled in the beginning of that. So
that's where you want to be. You want to be on the bottom of that pile.
Yeah, Fairzy, what do you remember from once you get to the pile and just are you searching out certain guys? Are you just hugging whoever's in your path? What's just those first few minutes immediately after you clinch and you get to join the guys?
I think you're just hugging every single guy in the team. You're just kind of going through the guys. I think, obviously, going to a guy like Cully, who we kind of feel like we did it together. We played together pretty much every game, PK together every game. Then maybe look for the guys like Dales, who wasn't able to play and obviously was such a big part of it. And of course, Phil the thrill there, just getting his first cup. There's so many different storylines with that team. That's part of what made it so fun.
Do you remember who handed you the cup and then who you handed it to? Because I know that's one of the most fun things for us, because obviously we don't come down until, a while after we watch everything from upstairs. But do you, I know that's one of the most fun things for us to watch is try to guess who's going to get it next. You know?
I'm 99% sure that I got it from Phil. I'm pretty sure I got it from Phil the Thrill, which is sweet. What an honor to get it from Phil.
Iconic.
And I think I gave it to Ben Lovejoy, but I'm not 100% sure. Do you guys know the answer?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
No, I'll have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure Phil gave it to me. I'm pretty sure I gave it to Ben Lovejoy.
Dude, that is iconic, as Josh said, to be able to say that Phil Kessel handed you the Stanley Cup.
The one thing I would say about getting the cup, I wish I would have taken a longer lap. I think it took too short of a lap. You're so excited to get it, and you're enjoying it. But like as soon as you turn, you're going back to the pile. Like you can't turn back,
Right.
So you're kind of with the cup looking at it. All of a sudden, you realize you're going back to the pile. I'm like, I'm not done yet. But I think I ended up giving it up a little early.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly. I was thinking that when I was watching the '09 celebration. Like Sergey Gonchar skated for 3 seconds, then turned around. I was like, bro, do a full lap. Like you deserve it. Like all of you guys earned it. And yeah, it's tough when you just do a quick twirl and come back. Like you definitely you guys definitely deserve the full laps. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it was good though, and like I said, getting it from Phil, that's pretty sweet. That one goes down in the record books for me.
What flashes through your mind when you lift it up, Fairzy? Do you remember that? I mean, is it as simple like what everyone says? Is it your past, your hockey career, parents, stuff like that? What goes through your mind?
I'll be honest with you, I had a bit of a bad shoulder, so I was just hoping I wouldn't drop the thing, and I wanted to be able to hold it straight up. So I was excited. Like I knew it was going to be heavy, and I knew that lifting over my head was not a good idea. But once I got it, things felt a lot better, and I was able to carry it around with relative ease.
Yeah, I think the only one that was in actual danger of dropping it was Jacques Martin, right?
Well, I think Bales was in trouble too with his foot. He didn't look like he was getting around very well.
Yeah, that's true. He was kind of hobbling with that thing.
Yeah. But like you said, you carry this cup and all of a sudden you're bulletproof. Dale's skating around was probably not a good idea, but you put a cup in his hands and he's a figure skater out there.
That's great. There's just in general, when you think back on this one, I know we've touched on a lot of different moments, but from your own personal perspective, when someone asks you about it, like what are the first things that come to mind that are your most like cherished, I guess, memories from 16?
I think the dinners that we had, going out with all the guys for dinner in the different cities, playing cards on the plane and playing cards in the suite. We always had a big suite where everyone would hang out at, in the evenings. We'd watch the other games, play cards, just hanging out with the guys. Those are the things that I remember the most. And then, playing the card game on the plane on the way home and using the cup as the table. So we're throwing our cards into the Stanley Cup. I have a picture of that that I look at every once in a while. Just the memories of playing cards with the Stanley Cup. It's pretty cool.
Who was in that card game? Obviously Gino and Phil. Was it Bones?
So the main card table was Cully, Bones, Cooney, and myself. And then when we extended it, we played 13 up, 13 down. When we'd extend the game, we'd put in Gino and Phil as well. Or sorry, Phil was in there. Cully was not in the regular game. So Phil, Cooney, and Bones, and then Cully would come in, Gino would come in later. Phil was actually my card partner on the plane, which was a lot of fun because this guy's known for his gambling abilities. And when we partnered up, we did pretty well. It was exciting.
I was going to say, did he teach you everything you know?
He taught me a lot about the game of euchre, but I still play a game called Pineapple with him every once in a while. It's a poker game, and I still have the title, so I like to rub that one in on
him. That's awesome. So you guys get back to Pittsburgh with the cup. What do you remember from that whole parade? I remember it being a beautiful day, but just going through the city, seeing everyone out, and did it really hit you at that point that you had won, or had it already sunk in at that point?
I think it sunk in the night before when we were at Lemieux's house, when we had the big party there. That was really cool for me, obviously, growing up, being a huge fan. The parade the next day was super hot outside. And it's funny, one of the memories I have is just how excited my daughter was to throw candy. So all she wanted to do was throw candy. And actually this year in Geneva, we were in a parade at the beginning of the year, and I took my daughter. And before the parade started, she said, "Can I throw candy again?" So he remembered somehow that she was throwing candy in the last parade she was in. That's how important it was to her. So, that was a big moment for her. It was awesome. It felt like a pretty long parade, which was nice. It wasn't over right away. But those are some of the memories I had.
Did you share a car with someone, or were you on your own?
I was with Ian Cole. And
Nice.
I remember the one parking garage. I'm sure you guys have seen it, just like how many people pile into that one parking garage, and they're kind of on every level just screaming. Seeing that was one of the best parts of the parade, just how many people were there and how loud it was.
Well, Fairsy, just about to wrap up here. Anything else that comes to mind as far as stories from that 2016 run worth sharing?
I have one story, and if this happened before the playoffs even started, I remember it like it was yesterday. We were sitting in a training room at the practice facility, and Phil Kessel told Gino Malkin that he was going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. And I don't think I've ever seen Gino laugh so hard. He goes, Phil, you? He said, if you win the Conn Smythe, I'll give you mine. And if you follow the run, I think Phil could very well have won the Conn Smythe. I think if he scores the goal in Game 6, he's like right beside the post. He's got a chance to tap it in. I can't remember what happens, but if he scores that goal instead of Sid assisting on Letang's goal, I think he wins the Conn Smythe. And I would be very interested to see what would have happened, because he called his shot and he almost nailed it. Did you guys ever hear that story, or did you guys know that?
No.
No, but I was definitely, I feel like we were all right there with you that we felt Phil was like super deserving of it. So that's like incredible to now have that added layer of context to it, that like he was like, Gino, I'm going to win it.
I'm going to win the Conn Smythe. This is before we even won one game. We haven't even won a game in the series against New York yet. And he's calling a shot at a Conn Smythe trophy. So that's pretty impressive.
It's unbelievable. Another chapter of the legend of Phil the Thrill with that kind of.
It just keeps growing.
It's
I don't
unbelievable.
know if he's going to be mad at me or not, but that story had to be told.
Hopefully they'll appreciate it.
Yeah. It's just such a reminder, like, again, of the camaraderie between you guys. These stories are so fun to hear, because you guys definitely all had such a good rapport, and it's really fun to like reflect back on all that.
Have you guys interviewed Mr. Game 1 yet?
He's on our radar.
Yes.
You got to get Mr. Game 1. It's important. He still goes by the nickname. You should probably get him on.
I feel like you got to tell fans like what that was, because people might not know the story behind Mr. Game 1.
Well, Mr. Game 1 is Jeff Zakoff. He was, I guess, kind of our third goalie at the time. We had Murray, we had Fleury, and both of them were injured going into the playoffs. And he started Game 1 against the Rangers and played really well, won the game. And I think after that, Fleury came back and played Game 2, if I'm correct. But from then on, he just talked about how easy it was to win the game, and how he's Mr. Game 1. He got the whole thing rolling, which he did. So, we got to give a lot of credit to him.
That's amazing. What a way to end this, to end with Mr. Game 1, where it all started.
Yeah.
Fairsy, thanks so much for taking the time and talking with us. We really appreciate it. Best wishes to you and your family. Hope you guys are staying safe, doing well, and congratulations again. A few years removed, but we'll say it again. Congrats on that 2016 Stanley Cup championship.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, for Michelle Crechiolo and Eric Fehr, I'm Josh Getzoff. Thanks for tuning into this 2016 Cup Memories. It's the Scoop Rewind presented by PPG. We'll be back with more as we continue our look back at 2016. So check us out on PittsburghPenguins.com.